As we pass below the CSX Railroad Bridge, we move from the lower Anacostia into the more natural and idyllic upper Anacostia. But be careful when you go under the bridge. Because of the rising and falling of the tides, some boats can only pass beneath the bridge at certain points, and some boats can't fit at all beneath it. While each section of the river has its own interest points along the river, the upper Anacostia is especially interesting as it's a section that not many people have experienced via boat or watercraft, and more resembles how the river would look in its natural state. The first thing you notice immediately when passing below the bridge is the sudden lack of visible development on the river. On the west bank is old RFK Stadium and the Kingman Park area of Southeast, as well as construction for the new Clean Rivers project. But other than that, not much of the city is visible from the river itself. As you move into this stretch of river, two structures do draw your eye on the western bank of the river. The first is a series of rectangular outfalls that mark the largest and most upstream combined sewer overflow, or CSO point, on the Anacostia, serving a large segment of Northeast. The second is a series of old concrete structures on the southern end of what is Kingman Lake and Kingman Island, the remnants of an old tide gate that used to help control water levels in Kingman Lake. In the past, this CSO was prone to overflow during large rain events, as stormwater landing on streets and buildings in Northeast flowed into the same pipes as sewage, triggering the need for an overflow into the Anacostia. Thankfully, as we talked about before, the district's Clean Rivers project aims to reduce combined sewer overflows into the Anacostia by 98% via two conveyance tunnels, the Anacostia Tunnel, completed in 2018, and the Northeast Boundary Tunnel, currently under construction and scheduled to be completed in 2023. At the old tide gate, we get our first glimpse of Kingman and Heritage Islands, as well as Kingman Lake. Kingman and Heritage Islands are man-made islands constructed much in the same way as Anacostia Park, by using Anacostia River sediments that were collected during periodic dredging of the river. The islands and the 110-acre Kingman Lake were completed in 1916. Over the years, an abundance of development and plans have been made for the islands. In the 1900s, it was proposed to turn the island into an airport, and the district even wanted to use the space as a potential landfill. In 1961, on the adjacent parkland, RFK Stadium was opened and would host many of the district's various sports teams. Langston Golf Course occupies much of the north end of Kingman Island and was constructed in the late 1930s and served as one of the first golf courses in the United States that was open to black golfers. Today, Kingman Island is property of the district and managed by the organization Living Classrooms. Unfortunately, Kingman Lake has a history of legacy toxins in the sediments themselves, like many areas of the river, but is currently being addressed under the Anacostia River Sediment Project, and will be one of the first locations remedied in the coming years. In 2018, Kingman Island was designated a state conservation area, further protecting it from any development and ensuring it serves as a true area of wilderness for DC residents and visitors to visit for years to come. It hosts many events throughout the year, most prominently the Kingman Island Bluegrass Festival, which has been drawing acts and visitors from across the East Coast for over a decade. In the future, it hopes to be a popular spot for all kinds of recreation, even potentially swimming when the swim ban in the district is eventually lifted in the future. As we move upriver towards the East Capitol Street Bridge, or the Whitney Young Bridge as it is also called, we move past many mudflats along the shoreline that resembles much of what the Anacostia used to look like due to the silting up of the river due to European settlement. You may also notice a seawall that runs along almost the whole length of the main stem and around Kingman Island. This was put into place in the early 20th century during the construction of Anacostia Park and its surrounding areas. Today, it's in disrepair in some places and vulnerable to sea level rise, making some areas of the seawall potential locations for further green infrastructure and more natural shoreline stabilization techniques like living shorelines. On the west bank of Kingman Island and on the east bank just past the Whitney Young Bridge, we also come across some of the largest continuous stretches of wetland habitat on the main stem Anacostia. These wetlands were built in the past few decades by the Army Corps of Engineers, and you may notice metal sheeting just in front of the wetlands put there to help them grow, but also stabilize them in their current location. Native plants like wild rice, cattails, spatterduck, and many more were used to encourage and help native wildlife. Wetlands are vital not just to the Anacostia, but to any tidal or freshwater habitats that they may inhabit. Wetlands provide numerous ecosystem services to the Anacostia, such as filtering incoming water to the river, trapping and holding sediment, stabilizing the shoreline by growing outwards and upwards with any sea level rise, and providing a safe haven for many native species of fish and mammals, among many others. The Anacostia used to be covered in wetlands as far as the eye could see in many places. In the early days of English settlement of the area, travelers would come from as far as Europe and abroad for the sole reason to see some of the beautiful birds and wildlife that inhabited the wetlands of the Anacostia. Today's wetland habitats along the Anacostia are much smaller than they used to be. Thankfully, in recent years, there's been an increased emphasis placed on many benefits that wetlands provide, leading to many wetland plantings and revitalization projects around the district and Maryland in the Anacostia watershed. The Benning Road, or Ethel Kennedy Bridge, marks the end of this stretch of the river, as well as marking the only spot along the river where the Metro rail service crosses above the Anacostia. So wave hello as we move north, further into parts of the Anacostia that are simultaneously more wild, while also being some of the most tarnished by human neglect.